In this Tokyo ramen industry lockdown series, I'm looking at the current state of affairs in the Tokyo ramen world. In this episode, I'm visiting one of my favorite ramen shops in Shibuya and one of my favorite ramen shops in Tokyo, Oni Soba Fujiya. They have two ramen shops in the same building, both operated by Fujiya-san. They specialize on one floor in Shio ramen and on the other floor, a savory lobster ramen. We're gonna be having both. His lobster ramen actually won top prize at a huge ramen festival in New York City last year. Fujiya-san is gonna let us into the kitchen and we'll get to watch him work his magic. We'll also interview him about how the current situation has impacted his ramen business and what he's doing to offset this. For those of you new here, I'm Frank from 5 AM Ramen. I was born and raised in Tokyo and I eat a ton of ramen. This channel is dedicated to bringing you the very best ramen in Tokyo and in Japan. I'm making my way to Oni Soba Fujiya now, and they're located in the heart of busy Shibuya in Sentergai, right across from Hachiko Square. I have arrived. Okay, so we'll jump into the kitchen with Fujiya-san now, and we'll start with the Shio ramen, which is available on their 5th floor, Oni Soba Fujiya. It's one of my favorite Shio ramen bowls in Tokyo. Their Shio ramen is a complex blend of chicken, fish, and other ingredients. Lip-smacking goodness. And I'm excited because I haven't had this in a long time. Oh, it's so good. This is one of my favorite Shio ramen bowls in Tokyo. You've got a rich fattiness coming from the chicken that's in there, but there's also fish accents throughout because he's using ingredients like grilled flying fish or yakiago. There's also niboshi, katsuobushi, as well as sababushi. In addition, there's actually 5 salts that he uses. It's a blend of 5 different shio. Super complex and really well balanced. Shio can be quite delicate, but this one, what I like about it, it's got a really nice punch to it. It's got like a golden flavors. Golden in color too. And that yuzu citrus is there just for a little bit of sweet acidity. I could just drink this soup all day. I was speaking to Fujiya-san, and what he's been using recently is a noodle with a little bit more closer to, let's say, a pasta noodle. For me, I'm always taking photos right before I eat ramen, and I can tell you they've still maintained their firmness very well. Now, in terms of toppings, we've got negi for some nice crunch and freshness, also menma bamboo shoots, and also grilled chashu. Here's the chashu, bottoms up. Supremely fatty, melts in your mouth, and it's so good. Even after the noodles are gone, I always end up drinking the soup. So good. Before having Fujiya-san prep the lobster ramen, I asked him about the impact of the current situation and what he's done to offset this.
宣言の時は本当に人歩いてなくて、でその中で何かこうみんなの家に自分のラーメンっていうのがなんか届ければなっていうのとかありまして、今通販をこのおうちラーメンってやつなんですけど、こちらの方でこうやってまして、このような形で家にうちのラーメンが手軽に届くと。まあ今まで沖縄とかから来れなかった人とかがうちの鬼そば富士屋の塩ラーメンが食べれたり、味噌ラーメンが食べれたりしてよかったっていうお手紙とかそういうのをもらって、それは今までこう気づかなかったことだったんで、この通販をやることによってなんかすごい何としても店を守ってやっていきたいなっていうのをすごく思いましたね。
Delivering ramen to people across the country has become a big thing among ramen shops. And in the case of Oni Soba Fujiya, he's sending it as far as Okinawa. It's been tough in the ramen industry to say the least. The lobster ramen I'm about to have was definitely created with visitors to Japan in mind, as it was the ramen that bagged Fujiya-san the top prize at the New York Ramen Festival. He sells this lobster ramen on the 3rd floor, where we are now, under the Oni Soba Fujiya premium brand. So here's the lobster ramen. It's night and day with the shio that I just had. I'm gonna start with the soup. It's rich but delicious. The lobster just takes over. In addition to the lobster, there's also shrimp in here, including shrimp oil. And from my understanding, lobster wasn't always a fancier ingredient, but now it is, of course. And I think in the same way, the fact that they have the gold bowl here, the fact that it's lobster ramen, I feel like royalty eating lobster ramen. The noodles are a little bit thicker than with the shio ramen, and those thicker noodles kind of help you mop up what is a thicker, heavier broth.
that broth is just clinging to those noodles. And another thing that's very interesting about these noodles is that they actually include potato in them. Fujiya-san is actually from Hokkaido, and it's common up there to serve the ramen piping hot. No different here. Toppings are pretty much similar, but they added bean sprouts. That provides a nice crunch, and the bean sprouts have a nice smokiness to them because of the stir fry. And of course, can't forget the generous chashu pork topping here, and the lobster itself, if I can get it out here. As you can see, the lobster are a little bit smaller in Japan, but just as tasty. And there's also miso in the broth here, so you get a nice undercurrent of miso with that lobster. Richness on top of richness. Excellent, excellent bowl.
While this lobster ramen is rich, Fujiya-san has actually been thinking about preparing more healthy ramen, given that he himself has recently put on weight. During lockdown, let me know in the comments if this has been the case for you. Did you lose weight? Did you put on weight? He talks about how it's important to use this downtime to work on new products.
ちょっと今新商品を開発する時期だなっていうこととかをライザップ実は通ってまして、自分でこんにゃくとか白滝とかで焼きそばとかを作ったりとか、楽しく減量できるラーメンっていうのをちょっと今開発してて、その前にこう自分がもう89キロまでちょっと体重増えてしまいまして、ライザップ15日目なんですけど、あと4ヶ月ちょっと頑張るので、ちょっと自分の結果を合わしながらなんかシェイプアップできるラーメン出していきたいし、それはまたこの通販でも皆さんの家にお届けできるっていうか、少しでもお助けになるラーメンっていうのはこれ今までなかったんで、またそこを新しくやっていきたいな。逆なカロリーがすごく高いラーメンも作ってるんですよ、実は。もううまくてしょうがない、ほんと1800カロリーぐらいあるラーメンも作って、そういうパワーが出てくるラーメンも作ってますね。なんか楽しくやらせていますね。やっぱりね、両極端やるっていうのが面白いなと思って。
Lastly, here are some words from Fujiya-san for travelers to Japan once travel has safely resumed.
オニソバプレミアムはニューヨークのラーメン大会で優勝してこっちに戻ってきて、本当はオリンピックの時期にいろんな海外の方が食べに来てくれて、日本の味噌とロブスターの味を合わせて、こんなにスープ美味しい、味噌美味しい、エビ美味しいっていうのを伝えたかったんですけど、なかなか今はこういう状況なので、ぜひ収束したら僕もちょっとその日までに自分のラーメンをすごくどんどんもっと今研究して、そのタイミングがあった時に美味しいラーメンを出せるように努力していきたいと思いますので、すごくこの時期たくさん自分と見つめ合うことが真面目になれたんで、ぜひ収束しましたら、旅行できるようになりましたら、富士屋またはオニソバ富士屋プレミアム、こちらのロブスター味噌ラーメンを食べに来てください。よろしくお願いします。
The Shio Ramen and Lobster Ramen will be waiting for you.
I hope you all enjoyed this episode in the Tokyo Ramen Industry Lockdown series. This is Frank from 5 AM Ramen signing out, reminding you to smash that like button if you enjoyed the video, and reminding you that Tokyo is the only city in the world where you get to have amazing ramen at 5 AM, including in Shibuya. Thanks for joining.